The Midnight Fisherman. In the village of Saltmarsh, where the salty air mingles with the scent of damp earth, and the sea murmurs ancient secrets, there once lived a man named Isaac Grimm. Isaac was a fisherman. Not just any fisherman, but the best the village had ever known. His nets always returned heavy with fish. His boat always the first to sail out and the last to return, laden with the sea's bounty. But Isaac's success was no mere stroke of luck. It was born from a dark and dangerous secret. Isaac had not always been a successful fisherman. There was a time when the sea seemed to mock him, offering up only empty nets and frustration. Desperate and angry, Isaac found himself turning to the old stories. The legends of sea witches, who could command the tides and bend the will of the ocean to their whims. Driven by his desperation, Isaac set out one stormy night, seeking the witch rumored to dwell in the dark waters beyond the reef. Through the howling wind and the thrashing waves, Isaac called out to the witch, offering anything in exchange for her help. The sea witch appeared, rising from the depths like a shadow given form, her voice like the hiss of the sea foam, promising him everything he desired. Full nets, calm seas, and the respect of the village, but her price was steep. Isaac had to pledge his loyalty to her, to be her servant on land, her eyes and ears among the people of Saltmarsh, and to never betray her secrets. For years, Isaac honored the deal. His nets were always full, his fortunes grew, and he became a man of wealth and status in Saltmarsh. But the sea witch's demands became increasingly intrusive. She began to ask for things that gnawed at Isaac's conscience. Spying on the villagers, spreading discord, and even sabotaging the efforts of other fishermen. The witch's requests became darker, more sinister, and Isaac's greed began to wane under the weight of his guilt. Isaac's betrayal came on a moonless night, when the sky was as black as the witch's heart. He decided he'd had enough. Ignoring the warnings whispered in his dreams, Isaac broke his oath. He ceased performing the witch's bidding, thinking he could simply walk away from the pact as easily as he had entered it. But the sea witch is not one to be scorned. The witch's revenge was swift and merciless. As Isaac's boat sailed out to sea the following morning, a thick fog descended upon it, denser than anything he had ever seen. The fog swirled around him, and from within it, the sea witch emerged, her form terrifying and vengeful. She spoke no words, for her fury needed none. With a wave of her hand, she cursed Isaac, transforming him into a spectral figure. Bound to the waters he had once commanded, Isaac Grimm became the Midnight Fisherman, doomed to haunt the shores of Saltmarsh, forever luring unsuspecting souls to the depths with a haunting melody, a song filled with sorrow and the weight of his eternal regret. Years passed, and the tale of Isaac Grimm, now the Midnight Fisherman, became a whispered legend in Saltmarsh. The villagers spoke of him in hushed tones, warning their children not to stray too close to the shore on foggy nights, lest they hear his mournful song and be drawn into the depths. Amelia, a young girl of 16, was the kind of person who lived for the thrill of adventure. Her bright eyes were always searching for the next mystery, and the legends of Saltmarsh were a constant source of fascination for her. Amelia's older brother, Daniel, was her polar opposite. Grounded, practical, and protective, always trying to keep his sister out of trouble, though it rarely worked. Daniel, have you ever heard the full story of the Midnight Fisherman? Amelia asked, her voice filled with excitement. They're just stories, Amelia. Daniel replied, shaking his head. Ghost stories to keep kids from getting into trouble. You shouldn't take them so seriously. But Amelia couldn't help herself. The story of the Midnight Fisherman had always drawn her in, and she was determined to learn more. One day, while wandering the beach, she and Daniel encountered Old Maren, the village's lorekeeper. Old Maren had lived in Saltmarsh for as long as anyone could remember, and she knew more about the village's dark past than anyone else. Old Maren, Amelia called out, "Can you tell us about the Midnight Fisherman? The real story." Old Maren's gaze seemed to pierce through the mist as she began to speak. Isaac Grimm was a man who let his greed guide his hand. He thought he could outsmart the Sea Witch, but no one escapes her wrath. She cursed him, and now he haunts the waters, his soul forever trapped in the very sea that once made him rich. Beware, children, for his song can draw even the strongest of wills into the depths. Stay away from the shore on foggy nights, she added, her voice growing softer, almost as if she were speaking to herself. The curse of the Sea Witch is not something to be taken lightly. That very night, a thick fog rolled in, blanketing Saltmarsh in a silvery, eerie mist. Amelia, her curiosity piqued by Old Maren's warning, decided she had to see for herself if the legend was true. She waited until the house was silent, then slipped out into the night, the fog swallowing her up as she made her way to the shore. Daniel, realizing Amelia was gone, hurried after her, his heart filled with dread. He knew his sister's curiosity could lead her into danger, and he couldn't let that happen. When Amelia reached the shore, she heard it. The faint, haunting melody that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The sound was both beautiful and terrifying, pulling at something deep within her. Through the fog, she saw a figure standing by the water, holding a glowing lantern. The Midnight Fisherman. "Look," Amelia whispered, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and awe. "It's him, the Midnight Fisherman." Daniel caught up to her just in time, his eyes widening as he saw the spectral figure by the water. "Amelia, get back," he shouted, panic rising in his chest. "We have to leave now." But the melody had already taken hold of Amelia. She felt an almost irresistible urge to walk toward the figure, to follow the haunting song to its source. Daniel grabbed her arm, pulling her back, but the pull of the song was strong. Too strong, the Midnight Fisherman raised his net, and from the depths of the fog came the Sea Witch's voice, cold and commanding. "Come to me, child. Your soul will join the others." With a surge of strength born from sheer willpower, Daniel managed to break the spell's hold on Amelia, pulling her away from the shore. They ran as fast as they could, the fog seeming to chase them, the melody fading but never quite disappearing. When they finally reached Old Maren's house, she was already standing outside, as if she had been waiting for them. Her expression was one of grim understanding. "You've seen him, haven't you?" Old Maren said softly, her eyes filled with a sadness that came from knowing too much. Amelia, still shaking, nodded. "He tried to take me." Old Maren sighed. "The curse is strong, but so is your will to live. Remember this night, and never let the sea claim you as it claimed Isaac Grimm." The siblings never spoke of that night again, but the legend of the Midnight Fisherman continued to haunt Saltmarsh, a reminder of the price of greed and the power of the Sea Witch's curse. And though the fog would roll in on many more nights, Amelia and Daniel always made sure to stay far from the shore, knowing that some stories are better left as legends. Thank you for joining me tonight. Until next time, sleep well, if you can.